The opinions, viewpoints, and beliefs presented on this program do not necessarily reflect those of the management, the affiliates and broadcast partners, or the sponsors. Listener discretion is advised.
Scarefest Radio, the radio you can see.
And hello and welcome everybody to Scarefest Television. Tonight's original broadcast date is February 21st, 2020. I am going to just be just a moment here, and we're going to turn it over to my co-host, Coyote Chris Sutton. His guest tonight is Mike Ricksecker. He's a paranormal investigator, author, and Ghostorian, and I love the word Ghostorian, by the way. Just to tease everybody, stick around to the 30-minute mark for sure tonight. We have six, count them, six celebrity announcements for Scarefest 2020. We'll see you then. Over to you, Chris.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Scarefest Television, and I'm glad you're all watching with us tonight. I have a special treat, my buddy Mike Ricksecker of Haunted Road Media and so many other different things. It is truly a pleasure to interview Mike, because we've spent how many hours, Mike, conversating, just, amongst ourselves. And so now it's neat to be able to let other people share in on it. I've known Mike for what, 4 or 5 years now, you think?
Yeah, probably about that. No.
Yeah, we end up a lot at the same events together and always seem to have a good time, even though sometimes the events are big and sometimes they're not. But it's all good because we're out there amongst the people and having fun and getting to the bar every once in a while. But we'll talk about something like that later on. Mike, let's dive right in, man. And I want to tell you that I was so happy for you. A lot of people don't know out there, or may know out there, I don't know. There's a new show on the Travel Channel called The Alaska Triangle. And Mike is prominently featured on this show. And I know, and it's up to Mike whether how far he wants to go into this, but has been years and years, been doing a lot of work and around cameras and things like that, and finally got the shot to get on the right side of it. And from what I've seen so far, my friend, it looks great. But tell us about it. Tell us about the Alaska Triangle and your part in it.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that, Chris. It has been a while. I was on, like back in the day, like The Haunted, and did the ghost thing and stuff like that. So some for the episodes, and talking about portals and vortices and electromagnetism and things like that as possible reason as to why these strange things happen up there in Alaska. And basically, it's like the Bermuda Triangle, but in Alaska. So all this planes, boats, people, things like that. It happens up there quite a bit. There's about 500 to 2,000 people that go missing per year up there, and some significant disappearances, like the planes that go missing. Some large planes that go missing without a trace. And one of them was the politicians back in the 1970s. It was the Speaker of the House, Hale Boggs, and one of the representatives up there, Nick Begich, and completely disappeared off the face of the earth. And people wonder, where did they go? But the show, does talk about some of those stories. It also gets into paranormal activity up there, some of the different cryptids, like at Lake Iliamna or the Hairy Man, things like that. And obviously coming up this week is going to be some of the missing ships. And they asked me quite a few questions about those. So I believe that they didn't tell me exactly which specific episodes. They're like, oh, you're going to be on this week and that week. And, okay.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It depends what the editors
There's the episode
did.
where I'm on the side of the mountain with the dowsing rods. So that one's still coming up too.
So, you're like I did. I saw your the episode you were in initially, and you talk about portals and vortices and as this possible explanations for these things that are missing. And even for some of the cryptids, some people believe that they travel back and forth through portals. So, what is your take on that as far as that area? What do you believe is causing the biggest problem in the Alaska Triangle?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of electromagnetism up there. I mean, the terrain is just very volatile. I mean, for example, I was stationed up there for 3 years in the Air Force, and when I got off the plane in 1992, they had just had a volcanic eruption, and ash was still falling from the sky.
Wow.
So it's just, between that, they get all kinds of earthquakes and things like that up there. So the land is very, very volatile, and you have this energy source that directly runs right through Alaska up there. Plus, you're up there in the Arctic, and you get to see the aurora borealis and things like that. So you get a lot more of that sun flare effect and things like that. So it's like all of these things kind of mix and combine to create a perfect storm for these different portals and vortices to other dimensions to manifest.
Mm-hmm. So, do you believe that, again, like a lot of people believe that ghosts pass through these things, and also cryptids? What's your theory on that? I mean, is because some people say, well, usually nobody ever catches a Bigfoot because it can get in and out real quick, So I've heard that kicked around. I know you have. What do you think about that? Because it kind of applies to what's going on here.
Yeah, it does, and it's very possible that that's what's going on here. There's times where you're walking with a buddy through the woods, and all of a sudden you turn and they're just gone, completely gone, and is this a way some of these cryptids are moving back and forth? Possibly. When I know we're going to talk a little bit about it soon, but even with the walk in the shadows, with the shadow people, I give a really good example of an incident that I had in which, to me, really displayed and showed the fact that I was interacting with something that was on another dimension, and even though it blew right through this door and you heard the smack of the door, but it illustrated the idea of sound being able to pass back and forth through that dimension, which is one of the things that happened with that missing Douglas airplane up in Alaska, where they were hearing this shatter, and a lot of people believe that it was the actual missing airplane, but the radio signal was coming from that other dimension that it went to.
Wow. Now, was it the Douglas? That was, I think, on the first episode where it was a military plane, and they were very interested in finding it, and they sent thousands of men out, aircraft, and this is a large plane. This is not a small, single engine plane. It's a large transport plane, and it's gone. They never found it, right?
Yeah, it just completely disappeared. They had 7,000 people out there looking for it. So a lot of military. There are also civilians out there looking for it, covering several hundred thousands of square miles between basically the Alaska border and Snag in Yukon Territory there in Canada, which is about the area where they believe that it went missing. And what's really interesting is that a couple months after this disappearance, there was another plane, it was smaller, that went down near that Snag area, and they found it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys were okay. But this other larger airplane, I mean, there's just nothing. They didn't find, they didn't find any of the people. They didn't find any wreckage. Just absolutely nothing. Just this phantom radio chatter, and that's it.
Wow. See, that's incredible because, like I said, a small plane goes down, they're on it like that, and this larger Douglas goes down, and then boom, it's nowhere. I also saw on the show about a bomber disappeared, and an atomic bomb went into the ocean.
And they still have not found that bomb. That was where they're flying through that area. The airplane started having all kinds of problems, started malfunctioning. They're having to shut down engines, and protocol that jettisoned the bomb was a nuclear bomb. They were on a training run. Basically training for long flights that would go deep into Russia, because you got to remember we were in Cold War at the time. and these things started happening. They jettisoned the bomb. There were 17 crew members that had to parachute out of the plane. Interesting things about that is, one, the pilot set a autopilot course for the plane to go out into the Pacific. It didn't go out into the Pacific. It veered off course and crashed into a mountain in British Columbia. They didn't find the wreckage until years later. The 17 guys that parachuted out, only 12 were ever found, and 5 just completely missing. They have no idea what happened.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know is that's protocol is to drop the bomb, get rid of the bomb. It's not armed, to get it off the plane before it crashes, and so they would drop it into the sea or whatever. I believe that's correct. So here you've got so many people dream of getting on that show and getting that time on there, and whether and plus you get to do something that you know something about and you care about, because I know I've talked to you about this kind of stuff, about portals and things like that before, so I know this is not something you just said you knew about just to get on television. This is something, and it's from an area you'd actually been to.
They found me.
Okay, well, I was going to ask you, how'd this all happen?
Yeah. Basically, yeah, they found me. They came across one of our videos on the Haunted Road Media YouTube channel that talked about portals. It was one of our Friday night ghost frights where we covered it was paranormal investigations at locations with portal activity. It was actually one of our least viewed videos at the time, ironically enough, but they found it and they found it interesting, and so they got a hold of me. They asked if I'd be interested in having a conversation with them. They didn't tell me anything other than portal activity. So it's like, okay, so we're doing a Skype interview, kind of like what we're doing here, and they started asking me some general questions about portals, and paranormal activity, and vortices, stuff like that. And then they start asking some a little bit more specific questions about Alaska, and I just said, oh yeah, you're talking about the Alaska Triangle, and just like, boom, they were like, oh yeah, so you know about the Alaska Triangle. So we chatted a little bit about that, and they're like, you're our guy. Okay,
great. Okay, so you're the guy. They want you. Then what?
For years. Then we set up a date for me to fly up there, and that was in the middle of May last year. And so spent a couple days up there. I did the first day that I was there. Great, and there's a huge time difference. So went up there. I kind of toured around a little bit on my own, and then the next day we went up the Flat Top Mountain outside of Anchorage, and most of the day was like it was me sitting on one of their camera cases, and because they wanted the nice backdrop with the mountains and everything. And I'm looking at the other guys on the show, like Johnny Enoch, Jeremy Ray, and Andrew Goff, and all these guys, and they were like in a nice warm room somewhere, and they got some cool lighting and everything in the background. Yeah. But for me, they wanted the nice background with the mountains, and they also wanted me to do the dowsing rods on the mountain there. So it's like I had to sit out there and freeze, because in May, even though it's kind of spring, but it takes a lot longer for spring to really kick into action up in Alaska. And then just being up on the mountain, I mean, there was still snow around us, so it was kind of chilly. Yeah,
and you got to wear that badass duster.
Yeah, I was wearing the duster. I was wearing like three layers of clothing. I had the duster over the top, and they're a great group of guys. They're from the UK. A couple of guys are from Wales, and so we went to lunch. They're talking a little Welsh between each other, which was interesting. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's neat. Yeah, I mean, it's something that people think about, but it's like to go on the road like that and go to to what many people do, to me, be a kind of a faraway place. To go up to Alaska. What was the coolest thing that happened to you up there during the shoot?
During the shoot. So, really, it would be with the dowsing rods, and I don't usually use dowsing rods.
I was going to say I'd never seen you use them before.
A few times, yeah, just a few times in the past. It's not something I use a lot, but it's a tool that they wanted to show on the show. So it's like, all right, I've used them before. And what was interesting was, as I was using the rods, kind of walking along. Along the side of the mountain there, and whenever I crossed this one spot, one of the rods would turn in and then walk out of that spot, and it'd go straight. And then I turned back around and tested it, and it did the same thing walking back through. So it's like, okay, so this is a hot spot. And so then I decided to take that and kind of step up and down the mountain. And as I did that along this one line, rod stayed true. It stayed turned in. So it's like, okay, so there's something here. There's a line basically coming down off the mountain, pointing out to ancient, which was pretty interesting.
Wow, that's pretty cool. Hey, everybody, we're talking with Mike Ricksecker here on Scarefest Television. It's time for a short break.
Do you feel lost in life? Do you seem to be stuck in emotions that are not yours? Is your home not the sanctuary it should be? Contact Spirit Mechanics, where they take a team approach to your metaphysical and spiritual problems. Spirit Mechanics specializes in aura cleansing, stone attunement, attachment removal, and house cleansings. Spirit Mechanics tailors their approach to your individual spiritual path and needs. Now find them monthly at the Central Kentucky Mystical Market in Lexington. Or on Facebook by searching Spirit Mechanics, that's MECHANIX. Spirit Mechanics, for your spiritual health and well-being.
Sorry about that. Last week Wes said that I read too much, and I guess the son of a bitch was right. That also makes for a very awkward introduction. But g'day, Glenn here from fakeshemp.net. Now this week we're only going to go back as far as 2007 to look at a really cool creature feature about a giant crocodile. And a little interesting side note is that in the same year of 2007, the director of Wolf Creek, Greg McLean, also made a giant crocodile movie, and that was called Rogue, and that was a cool movie. So 2 croc movies in 1 year, that is what I call bang for buck. But we're going to look at the other one. It's a very, very cool little movie called Blackwater. So in the top end of Australia, there are places called Queensland and the Northern Territory, and crocodiles are native and they're in abundance. And there's always stories of people being dragged into the water and killed. It's really common. That's a glowing endorsement of our tourism, I know, but seriously, come here, visit us, it's awesome. So where Greg McLean's Rogue movie was much more hyper-real and action-driven, Blackwater went more for a realistic and subtle approach. Having a much smaller budget, I guess, kept the production in check, and it allowed them to lean more heavily on the suspense. So the movie itself revolves around a group of friends who are visiting a crocodile tour after hearing how huge the crocs can get. Naturally, as the genre would dictate, they're attacked and they find themselves stranded and fighting for survival. The story's actually pretty much the same as Rogue, and I guess it's the same as pretty much every creature feature. The direction here is really well handled, and the overriding sense of dread and peril, they're really dominant. There are, however, a very few brief CGI moments. They look a little bit hokey, and one shot that you'll see at the end of this trailer is pretty much the extent of it, so there's no real concern it doesn't affect the impact of the movie. If you love creature features, then you have to track it down. There's an American DVD release of it. You can find it online if you search. And before I go, a little bit of a side note. This movie was actually considered to be the first of Andrew Traucki's creature feature trilogy, with the other 2 follow-up movies being The Reef, which was a really cool shark movie, and The Jungle, which was actually a pretty average found footage film about people being stalked by a leopard. Good concept, not well executed. Anyway, if you're a completist like I am, then buy them all regardless. I'm a sucker for crocodile and alligator movies, and as a fan, I recommend that you join the bandwagon, get on board Blackwater. You can tell that I love that movie. In fact, I love them both, so if you're a self-respecting horror fan, make sure you add them both to your collection. They are so fun. And the exciting news is that the director has come back for number 2. We've got Blackwater Abyss, which will be hitting screens hopefully this year. It's a movie about a group of people that are deep cave diving and get stuck at the bottom of a cave with crocodiles. And what's not to love about that? I'm excited. In the meantime, I have a brand new podcast I need to plug. It starts on March 2nd, which is March 1st American time. Can't forget the time difference. It's called Good Movie Monday. It is going to be fun. It's every week. And check it out. Like the Facebook page and get on board. And I'll catch you next time.
bloody brilliant Glenn as always. Now you have me hooked when you start showing movies about the drop bears. So I'm looking for that, mate. Okay, Mike, back to you, my friend. And Glenn is brilliant. He's great.
Yeah.
Okay, you popped the book up a minute ago, The Shadow People. That's kind of your thing this year, I think, is talking about the book and about the shadow people themselves. So that would make us believe that you have had experiences with the shadow folk. And so what is why write this book? I mean, what were the experiences that base this up, you're basing this on?
Yeah, I mean, I've had quite a few shadow people experiences throughout my life, including my first major paranormal experience that happened to be, with a full figure shadow physique. So it's something that I've talked about a lot over the years. I've done different presentations on. Of course, I'm going to be doing that this year again, the bigger presentation, which I've added more to, and I've done some videos in the past. But basically, over the years, people have always, asked the questions. Okay, what are the shadow people? What are the different types? They'll send me stories and ask, a lot of different questions about who and what these things are. So it was like, okay, it's time to actually sit down and put the information together and get the information out there to people in something that they can digest, rather than, I mean, I still send them to the videos and all that stuff, but it's really a resource that people can go to. It's like, okay, somebody told me about their Hat Man experience. What's the Hat Man? Or I have an entire part of the book on sleep paralysis. So there's a lot of different questions about sleep paralysis that come my way, and it's a big concern for people. So hey, here's all the information on that. Get into them being interdimensional beings, whether or not they may be aliens. We get into simulated universe type stuff. So because these are all different possibilities of what they could be. Okay. And the demon question in there too. So there you go.
Oh, we can't forget the demons, can we?
Right.
Okay, so I mean, what's the difference between your, as I will say, garden variety shadow person and the Hat Man? What's the difference between those two?
Yeah, that's interesting. Garden shadow person. Well, and it's kind of a common misconception that like all shadow people are evil. They're not all evil. Yeah. But the Hat Man is one that seems to be a bit more nefarious. Just about all of the experiences people have shared with me, and the Hat Man, I've been experienced a ton of shadow people within my life. That's actually one that I have not experienced, the Hat Man. But from all the experiences that people have shared with me, he's definitely more of the nefarious type. I mean, he comes into, for example, he comes into your room at night, and he'll stand at the edge of the bed, and he strikes that fear to his victims. So there's whether actually an energy vampire that will come into the room, strike fear into you, and feed off that fear. Sometimes he's also flanked by other shadow people. Some of them, also wearing the hats, or some of them just like humanoid shadow figures. So it's like a whole gang sometimes will come in there.
So I mean, I think I heard someplace about the Hat Man being a harbinger of something, that like something's going to happen. Have you ever heard that story? Or
like the harbinger of death? And that's no. I've heard people try to say that, but he's not. I mean, basically, the hooded figure gets that too, because the hooded figure looks like the Grim Reaper, and that's the one that's the harbinger of death. And the Grim Reaper is not actually a shadow person. He's a psycho. He's basically a guide to take you. He's guiding you into death. He's not actually evil or anything like that. Right. He has a job to do. You're about to die. He's going to take you there.
Right. I mean, if the Grim Reaper didn't do his job, then there'd be too many people. I used to, or like on the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, where he quit doing it, and it caused all kinds of havoc. But the shadow people are interesting. I have seen them inside and outside. My most fun experience with shadow people was a place called Edinburgh Manor up in Iowa. It's an old poor farm, and we think it's a potter's graveyard. And there, a graveyard for indigent people lived there because they didn't have any money, so they'd throw them in a hole. And so we went back there one time, and I literally saw 5 or 6, and you could tell, like, you see the silhouettes of the shadow people, and it would block off the lights of the farmhouses behind it. It was one of the neatest experience. I mean, they would do goofy stuff like they'd run at you, and then, retreat like they're playing games with you and things like that. And we had about 6 or 7 of us that were out there. My son Max was with us, and it was just strange. But I also, I didn't ever felt threatened by them, and so I didn't think it was bad. I think they were just messing with us. They were having fun. But I've seen other occasions where it's like, some people are scared the crap out of them. And so, it's like, you're right. It's like, I don't know. What makes them different from other ghosts, or do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. It's simplistic, but what I'll say is that, hey, some people are good, some people are bad, some shadow people are good, some shadow people are bad. And, varieties, and they have free will, and so some do good things and some do bad. I mean, most are just rather benign, and you'll get those nasty ones, of course, and we've had to deal with those. But there's also, it sounds like yours may have been, of course it would take additional investigation and research. It sounds like yours may have been human spirits that weren't fully manifesting, were just showing up as shadows, and you get that where it's a human spirit, and it's just not manifesting into an apparition. And we got to see last year at Mineral Springs, where on the top floor in the abandoned hotel part, that one hallway where there's supposed to be the room of the little girl, down that hallway, started seeing some black smoke manifest, and I actually got to see it morph into the apparition of the little girl. And this is the first time I ever got to see the little girl, and this was actually the Haunted Media Con, the end of our investigation that Saturday night. And there's 5 of us there, and we're all looking, and we're seeing the little girl. I was like, "Do you see what I see?" And Sean was like, "Yeah."
She never does. Like, she never does that. That's cool. This is a recurrent spirit that's in this particular room, and she's spoken. I mean, I've heard people communicating with her. I've never heard of her actually manifesting like that.
Yeah, so we've investigated in that room before, trying to do EVP sessions and things like that, and we've never really gotten in that room. But when she came, because she was coming down the hall toward us, she stopped right at that doorway. She didn't come any further than that doorway. So I was like, okay, so I guess there really is her room.
And what a cool segue, because now I can say, you'll come to the Haunted Media Paracon at Mineral Springs, June 12th and 13th, in beautiful Alton, Illinois. And Mike, I'll be there. Mike will be there, because this is Mike's big show, and it gets bigger every year and better every year. And we got quite a few people coming. I know you can find it on Facebook, Haunted Media Paracon. So if anybody is out there is interested, definitely check it out, because it's a great time. It's Friday night and Saturday. You expanded a whole Friday to Friday night now, so which is really neat. So books, man, you've written so many books. What can you tell? I mean, I know you got a bunch of them. What is there any in particular you like to mention, or hold up or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I just had the Shadow Person book to hold up here, because that's of course it just came out, so that's pretty awesome. And I'm really happy with it. But so we have the entire Encounters with the Paranormal series. So those are not just my stories, but people from all over. And so, I've done some others like Ghosts of Maryland, Ghosts and Legends of Oklahoma, which are real historic hauntings from within those states. There's Campfire to the West, which they're fictional tales, but they're based on real history and legends. And they're a lot of fun, because it's like stories that you tell while roasting marshmallows over a campfire. There's Ghostorian Case Files, which is it's a real different read, because it's like you just opened up my file cabinet, took out a file, started reading through like all the case notes. So it has like EVP transcripts and interviews and journal entries, and it's really a different type of. And then a couple of mystery novels, System of the Dead and Deadly Heirs, with my detective character that I created. So I've got kind of a little bit of everything going on.
Yeah, and not only does Mike, he's not just promoting himself. I mean, he also helps other people get published, and I'm very lucky to be part of one of the books. I wrote a chapter in the middle. It was volume 3, I think it was, and Encounters, and that was really cool to be a part of that. But who's some other people that are
great about those is that part of the proceeds of those books go to help the haunted historic locations that are featured on the cover. So like the one that you have some work in. The one other, we'll cut a check to Dan there every once in a while from the proceeds from the book to go restore Mineral Springs.
Yeah, and he's also a lot of people that you publish as well, Amelia Cotter, and a lot of people like that are just, and you're good to people. I know I've heard people say that you're good to your authors and you promote them, and that's, nobody can ask for anything more than that. And as I painstakingly will hopefully get you a manuscript someday, I'm keep pecking away at it. But if I could talk the damn thing, I'd be better off, because I can talk all day long.
You'll get it.
I will, yeah. One of these days we'll get it out there. But anyway, okay, Mike, where can people find you if they're looking for Mike Ricksecker, both at events and how to find you in the Ethernet or the web?
Yeah, you can find me MikeRicksecker.com and HauntedRoadMedia.com. Of course, Haunted Road Media YouTube channel. Please go ahead and subscribe to that. Facebook, you find me Mike Ricksecker and Haunted Road Media, and then you'll find all the event info. Look for the Haunted Road Media Paracon come out June 12th and 13th to that in Alton, Illinois, and of course the books can all be found on Amazon as well. And like you said, Chris, all of our other authors on board right now with Haunted Road Media. So yeah, we're doing a lot. We keep growing.
Yep, definitely. Mike, my friend, it's a pleasure to have you on. I hope I'll see you soon. We bumped into each other in Mill Springs last week, and Mike has moved closer to where I live now, and so we see each other quite often. So, my friend, as always, so thank you so much for being on. Thanks for sharing your stories with us. And we're going to go to our next break. Again, thanks very much to Mike Ricksecker, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you, brother.
Akashic Awareness is a metaphysical healing and learning center unlike any other. A large selection of crystals, gems, and minerals greet you as you walk in the door, but from that point onward, the journey is yours. They offer a great selection of metaphysical tools, state-of-the-art holistic healing, with classes and lectures scheduled throughout the month. Akashic Awareness is open Tuesday through Saturday, noon until 6:30, 7 on Friday and Saturday. Visit their website for a current calendar of their almost daily special events and guests at akashicawareness.com. And while you are there, be sure to join their email list to stay current. Akashic Awareness, 328 Sycamore Street, Elizabethtown, Kentucky.
Join us at the Universal Energy Expo May 2nd and 3rd at the Northern Kentucky Convention Center. Meet celebrity guest Coyote Chris Sutton. Door prizes and workshops available with admission. While here, check out our readers, healers, and one-of-a-kind vendors. Admission the day of the event is $15 daily, $20 for a weekend pass. Discount tickets now available at the Silver Wolf at 4205 Richardson Road in Independence, Kentucky. The Universal Energy Expo. Come curious, leave enlightened.
Scarefest fan favorite Bruce Campbell makes a return this week to horror history with the release of Army of Darkness in 1992. In this third installment in the Evil Dead series, our hero, Ash Williams, is sent back in time where he must battle an army of the dead in order to retrieve the Necronomicon and return home. With the first two Evil Dead movies already developing a cult following, Army of Darkness easily follows and is seen by many as the best in the trilogy. Director Sam Raimi delivers the perfect mix of comedy and horror, and Ash Williams, along with his boomstick, will go down in horror movie history as one of the greats. And welcome back, everybody, to Scarefest Television. Yes, I am your host, Wes Forsyth, and no, you don't get rid of me that easy. We had so much hit the show tonight, announcement-wise, all in one big clump, just like I predicted it would, that we wanted to give our guest, Mike, and my co-host, Chris, all the time we could, so we just pretty much let them run with that first half hour. But now you got me back. Now you got me back, and I'm going to tease this out a while. Okay, I've got 6. I got 3 that you hardcore. Okay, first, I'm going to start with the first three. The first three announcements. Here's the thing. This was a lineup everybody said we should have had last year or 2 years ago, whatever it was, because of the anniversary of a certain movie. It didn't work out. But because we're moving it so close to, spoiler alert, Halloween, Scarefest will be just right on top of Halloween, spoiler alert, we thought you might enjoy these announcements. Okay, let's load our announcements there. Let's get that first banner ready. And go. Mr. Tony Moran. Tony Moran is coming to the Scarefest. You will know him, of course, from Halloween back in 1978. Played freaking Michael Myers. So there, that's pretty much top of the pile. Jack Fox in Beg. Beg was another one of his movies. The Unforgettable Force, Dead Bounty. The man has some great. He was in Death House just back in 2017. He's got some solid horror cred. But yes, we do have Mr. Tony Moran from the original Friday the 13th. Now, to continue on this theme, Ms. Nancy Loomis. Now, of course, now her name is Nancy Keys. But yeah, Nancy Loomis was her name back when she did the movie, but she was Annie in Halloween. She was also did The Fog, Assault on Precinct 13, and came back in Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. So we have Nancy Loomis coming to the Scarefest 2020, Scarefest 13. And to round out our Halloween, our little Halloween theme, Mr. Charles Cyphers. Mr. Charles Cyphers is coming to the Scarefest 2020. Played Brackett in the 1978 Halloween. Also Major League, one of my favorite movies of all time, I have to admit. Sorry, horror people, I did love Major League. But he's also, once again, the Fog. We're also having a Fog reunion, apparently, because the Fog Assault on Precinct. The graphics guy is going to be busy for this. Okay, take it back to my camera now. Then we'll come back to the rest of our announcements. Now, while I have your attention, we still have 3 more announcements. Count them. 3. Volunteer applications. Now, a lot of y'all watch this show. We've got a lot of people in the super secret, top secret staff, Scarefest staff group that have not filled out the damned applications. We got to have the paperwork, people. We understand you want to work for Scarefest. You want to get in for the weekend. You want to be up elbowing with the stars. You want to be a part of something bigger. Well, you got to fill out the paperwork. That's the damn rules. That way, if you trip and fall, you can't sue us. Basically. So anyway, we do need your volunteer applications. Officially, do they close the end of this month, or it's like first week of March? That's the official close of them. Now, that doesn't mean we would necessarily take volunteers after that. It just means all of the good spots will be assigned. So if you want to have a little better integration into the team structure of the Scarefest, get your volunteer applications in. Go to thescarefest.com, click volunteers, and there's an online application after you read a little bit about it. Vendors. Our vendor booths are selling fast and furious. We've only got 200 booths this year guaranteed. Now, if the remodeling at the convention center gets ahead of schedule, we might have some more floor space. Don't count on it, because I have worked with government contractors before. We'll be lucky if we're not all showing up in coveralls and having to do drywall ourselves. But vendor applications are online. We got from artist table all the way up to the big double end cap booths. Those are all on sale on thescarefest.com. You've got that to look at. And I also want to bring up, of course, along with that, ticket sales are online. We have day passes. So as I do these announcements tonight, you know you're going to want to come now. You just know you're going to want to come. But ticket sales are hot. They are online. We have platinum tickets left. We still have, of course, gold tickets, but we also have all the day passes if you want to go ahead and get those. So you got it budgeted in. That way you don't have to come up with the money at the last minute. You can just go right ahead and buy your tickets. And finally, speaker applications. Now, we've had according to Amber, we've had a kind of a glut, I'll use that word. I haven't used the word glut for a while, of speaker applications like in the last 2 weeks. Get those in. Now, it's officially open till like May 1st, I believe, but we need time to look those over because we're going to have to base our speaker schedule on worst case scenario, which means we will not have as much space to have seminars. Basically, it's going to mean we're going to be running one at a time all weekend. That's like a 75-80% drop from what we're used to, FYI. So we will not even have as many speaker slots open. No, I did not apply, so you can have my spot. But if you're even thinking about it, you better get your application in because we've already got more than enough applications to fill the weekend. So now it's going to be quality. So if you wait, you probably won't get a piece of the action. Now, I got 4 minutes till the break. Now we're going to do our other celebrity announcements. Returning to Scarefest 2020, one of our fan favorites, Tracy Lords. Tracy Lords is coming back this year. The beautiful and talented Tracy Lords. Of course, Crybaby is her top of her IMDb page, if you will. But Excision, she was in Blade, been in quite a few movies, and everybody. And yes, my understanding, this is not official. I should have asked Brandon or Adrian this, but my understanding is, yes, she will be bringing her line of clothing. Now, if that is wrong information, I'll edit it out of the show later. That was what I was told, but I don't know that was not passed on to me officially. That was just, but I think everywhere she goes, she tried that way, makes a little extra there. But, so Tracy Lords is coming to Scarefest 2020. Next up, now this one, as far as I know, I don't remember her coming before. So, someone can correct me in the chat room if I'm wrong, but Amy Locane. Now, Amy is coming as part of a Crybaby reunion that we are holding. Realize it's not a horror movie, but you'll get over that. But Amy Locane, and she has done so much television work that it would just, reading it off her IMDb page would just be counterproductive. But you will know her from School Ties, and she's got her horror movie creds up. Amy Locane was in Bram Stoker's Mummy, Bad Karma. She's done some horror movies for us, but she is coming to Scarefest this year. Amy Locane, and did anybody say in the chat room whether or not they remember her ever being before? I don't remember her coming before. I'm going to look here real quick. Nobody has said that I'm totally badass crazy, so maybe I called that one right. Our final celebrity announcement of the evening, just of the evening. We're not done, people. We're not done. Mink Stoll. Mink Stoll is rounding out our Crybaby reunion, but she also she was also in the mom movie, the crazy mom movie. It was actually her. There it is. Serial Mom with Kathleen Turner. So Ring of Darkness, she got her horror creds also, but Mink Stoll is making an appearance at Scarefest 2020, Scarefest 13, October 23rd through 25th, 2020. Get your tickets now, thescarefest.com. Now that's our announcements for tonight. We had 2 more, one of which would just make those of you in the, I'll put it this way, it's somebody we've been trying to get for several years, and the schedules have not worked out, but we didn't hear back from the agent in time. The contracts are actually signed, but we're not allowed to, they sign it, we sign it, we send it back. We're not allowed to announce until the agent gives us a go-ahead. That's where we are on a couple of more, but we've still got that I've been given, and we're ready to go with about, I want to say 18 more, and that's before we even get into the second tier. I mean, I shouldn't say that. Not second tier. Second round of contract negotiations. We've got a good solid field. Next week, whatever we do with the show, I don't have the show scheduled yet. I got some ideas of what I want to do next Friday night, but next week we should have another big group, good group, quality announcements. But so far this year, we have not been slacking on creating the buzz that I don't believe that you all want. Once again, to celebrate Halloween, we're going to have Tony Moran, Nancy Loomis, Charles Cyphers, and then our Crybaby reunion with Tracy Lords, Amy Locane, and Mink Stoll. Take that, America. We'll be back after this commercial break and our little segments. Everyone is talking about CBD oil, and it seems like almost everyone is using it. The research is ongoing, but the apparent health benefits are overwhelming. If you're going to use CBD products, though, what brand should you buy? First, find out where the hemp was grown. Imports are flooding the market. How potent is it? Look for a brand that plainly states its concentration on the label. And look for full spectrum CBD. This means the oil contains CBD and all the other cannabinoids, terpenes, and nutrients that are found in the entire cannabis plant. Look for Blue Leaf CBD oil. Blue Leaf Naturals is a Kentucky proud company. They use only Kentucky-grown hemp, supporting Kentucky farmers and businesses. Visit their website at blueleafcbd.com now and use the code SMILE at checkout for free shipping.
Coyote Chris Sutton.
Shamanism.
Spiritual advisement.
Paranormal investigations.
Inspirational presentations.
Bringing light to the darkest places for over 20 years. Go to CoyoteChris.com to learn more.
Hey, Scarefest. This is Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly with another review. This is a movie that came out back in the summer. Didn't get to see it. Finally got to see it. Produced by Sam Raimi. Directed by Alexandra Aya. I'm talking about Crawl. Now, this isn't your typical horror film. There's not books and specters and goblins and mass murderers. Basically, it's a very simplistic plot. This young lady, who's a swimmer, is in college in Florida. Her mom and dad are going through a divorce. She contacts her sister to see, hey, have you talked to dad? Dad and I fell out and he hasn't contacted me. There is a Category 5 hurricane coming. Right? A hurricane coming. They can't find their dad. Well, the one sister convinces the swimmer, the college student, that she should go check on her dad. Well, I actually try to talk her out of it, but she wants to go anyway because she's hard-headed and bullish. She goes to check on her dad. She gets stuck in the hurricane in the house with her dad trapped underneath. It's flooding, and alligators are everywhere. Welcome to Crawl. I'm giving it a little bit of a hard time. Actually, it's really well made. It's only about 80-some minutes long. It's not a huge investment. And if you're familiar with Alexandra Aya, you would know that he directed High Tension, Mirrors, which is a movie with Kiefer Sutherland. I don't think a lot of people talk about that I really like. He directed The Hills Have Eyes remake, which I think is pretty good. It's pretty gruesome, by the way. He also directed Piranha 3D, which I have a lot of fun with. If you've never seen Piranha 3D, well, if you like blood, you like violence and topless ladies, then Piranha 3D is right up your alley. Piranha 3 Double D is even more interesting. That one's directed by John Gallagher, but we're not going to go off there. Alexandra Aya's Crawl is a lot of fun. It's produced by Sam Raimi. They've got to get out of this house. It's flooding and alligators are everywhere. And I've watched an interview with him where he talked about, I wanted to do a movie that wasn't a creature feature, right? These alligators are not hyped up on some sort of nuclear energy or Alacroc or something like that. You know, it's not a Sci-Fi Channel thing, but they're regular alligators and they can eat them. And they eat a lot of people. And it's pretty gruesome. Some people lose some limbs. A lot of people keep getting bit all the way throughout the movie. In fact, her and her father are our two main stars. Her father's played by Barry Pepper, and he's a fantastic character actor. A lot of punishment. I really recommend this movie. It is so much fun. I know it sounds very simplistic, and it's called Crawl, of all things, which sounds stupid. You expect it to be on Sci-Fi Channel, but it's just well acted, well executed, well made. I loved Crawl. I recommend Crawl. So stop by, check out Crawl, and check out Bonehead Weekly. Thank you so much, Scarefest. This has been Joe Lewis.
Okay, now, good. So you're strapped in here, and this is good. Open your head back. Good. Now, excellent. Now, the glasses will direct your vision to the computer screen. And wonderful! Thank you for volunteering your time to this very important scientific experiment, Labratio. Your service is very important to this research. Together we will expose ourselves to the ghastly, depraved, and unfathomable horrors that modern cinema beholds. We will examine the effects that this questionable content has upon your brain, and we will endeavor to push the limits of what the human mind can withstand. Now, are you ready, Labratio? Yeah. All right then. Prepare yourself now, and remember, we do this for the benefit of mankind. I want you to discuss what you're watching and tell me how it affects you. Now, ready for Reptilicus.
All right, are you ready, Labratio? Now, this one gets very intense, so I want you to
part
just...
right there is sick, man. That is sick.
Well, we're trying to make it as intense as possible.
A reptilian tail. It's just a tail, right?
No, there is the rest of it as well.
But it was a tail. Looked like a worm.
I think it's not Wormicus, though. It's Reptilicus.
Reptilicus. Scientific history. Civilization is shot.
Yes, quite. Even at the beach, you're never safe, Labratio.
Is he in the kitchen? He's in the sink. Oh. Was that Reptilicus?
It sure was.
This is Grayson. All units.
Where'd his name come from?
Well, he's a reptile, and he's also a ictus. So he's... Oh, looks like he was a little drunk there. I think Reptilicus is making Labratio have gas. We'll have to write that down. Good. Save some of that puke for scientific study. How are you feeling right now as these bridges slowly reach apart?
It's like my freaking stomach right now. Oh my gosh, yeah.
Oh, I like the fire.
Tums or acid reflex medicine or something. Golly.
Well done, Labratio. You did excellently. Let's get these off of you. Now tell me how this film has affected you, and what's going through your mind after seeing such horrors.
And some plugs for where we, the Scarefest, and I personally will be coming up. we've got Lexington Comic-Con coming up. That is the big one in Lexington, Kentucky, March 26th through 29th. I'll be there Saturday and Sunday personally doing bad tarot card readings and autographing free pictures if you were to just say, hey, can I have a free picture? Couple more things before I close the show out. I managed to get everything in on time tonight. I can't believe it. I do want to go ahead and give a shout out to our first sponsor of the year. This is our first Scarefest. Every year they all come back, but this is the first one that is actually said, hey, yes, I am definitely coming back to feed you folks. Bad Wolf Fiercely Crafted Burgers, 350 Foreman Avenue, a legend in Lexington. A relaxed stop offering an array of burgers with creative toppings and fries, plus patio seating. Look them up on Facebook and look at those god-awful burgers they serve. They're like bigger than my head. Not bigger than Chad Harlan's head, but bigger than my head. So check out Bad Wolf Burgers. We welcome them back to the Scarefest family. And our first featured vendor of Scarefest 2020 is Concept Media Films. Concept Media Films has signed up as a featured vendor at the Scarefest 2020. They're an up-and-coming film company based outside of Dayton, Ohio. Look them up online, Concept Media Films. Google that and you will find them. They've got a lot of independent horror productions that they sell through their website. Check them out. Once again, Concept Media Films. Guys, welcome to the Scarefest. Everybody, we had 6 celebrity announcements tonight. If you happen to miss it, Tony Moran, Nancy Loomis, and Charles Cyphers of Halloween fame, and our Crybaby reunion, Tracy Lords, Amy Locane, and Mink Stoll. Everybody, this has been Scarefest Television. Check back next week. We have more celebrity announcements coming your way.